Episode 12 of The Messenger, the Rachel Cancer Scam. Previously on The Messenger, we had a visit with that therapist who provided some incredibly insightful information on Rachel's cancer scam, her cons, and the lies that she has perpetuated her entire life, and much more. On this episode, I want to go over this issue with Dr. Jared a bit more in depth with you, but it comes with a warning. And I touched on this in the first episode of the first season of the podcast. Remember that disclosure about the sensitivity about certain subject matter, particularly victims of sexual assault? This episode is somewhat heavy on that material, and I've done my best to sanitize it, but it sort of is what it is, as much as I hate that cliche. Over the summer of 2023, Rachel wasn't communicating with any of the doctors at the hospital, waving off her exams oftentimes and refusing to allow them to treat her stoma and empty her colostomy bag. And a true horror began to emerge during this time, one that led to that fight between Dr. Jared and Dr. Holt. There was this issue where Holt walked in on a doctor that we had suspected was touching Rachel inappropriately. According to Holt, he had his hand inside of Rachel while touching her, one of her breasts. And I was mortified. It confirmed what Rachel was saying. While Rachel obviously knew what was going on, she did have no feeling below her waist. She couldn't tell exactly what was happening. And the way that I found out was that I got a message from Rachel's daughter, who said that Holt had come in, went behind the curtain, and started screaming and yelling, pulled the doctor out by his arm. Holt called security. That doctor was arrested. Holt later said that he'll never see the inside of a hospital again unless he's a patient. The reason and the way that Holt caught him was that I did share with him that I had good reason to believe that she was being touched against her will. I gathered some information from Rachel. She would say that she didn't want to share, and I pushed her to share. I then promptly shared with Holt. He asked for more information, including names of doctors and dates. And for several days, I kept track of names and asked a bunch of questions about these various exams that were happening. As it turns out, it wasn't just one doctor that was doing it, according to Rachel. There were other culprits. I thought that this was the end of it when he caught the first doctor, but when I asked Rachel, she said he's not the only one. Other odd things were happening as well. During the evening exams that were supposed to happen at around 8 o'clock, those exams were now happening at about 10 o'clock or later. After I realized that she was being touched again, I began to ask her after each exam how they went and if anything happened that shouldn't have happened. She was reluctant to discuss any of these things in detail. Sometimes she wouldn't discuss anything at all. I'd say, how'd the exam go? Was everything okay? Sometimes she'd just say,
I don't want to discuss it, and I'm going to say goodnight.
And this was the tell, right? Keep in mind that her daughter would allegedly knock off for the night at around 9 or 9:30. So 10 o'clock or after was a good time for those doctors that wanted to do whatever they wanted to do, draw the curtain, and get some privacy. They could do that. At one point, I asked her what was happening specifically. Now, she had a burn on her chest and on her side from being shocked. Those burns needed to be treated with some ointment. She would tell me that they were treated, but the manner in which they did was completely disturbing to me.
Instead of Jared just moving the gown down to apply the ointment to the area above my left breast and moving the gown from my side over to my stomach, he just takes the gown off, so I'm just basically laying here naked.
In the beginning, she would text me during the exams, but slowly she began to say,
I'm about to get my exam. I'll text you when it's all done.
I wasn't sure if this had to do with unwanted or inappropriate touching or if she was just in pain from the treatments that she was receiving from the wounds, the wound on her head and the burn on her ribs and chest. One of those nights, I asked her if the doctor had removed the gown completely and how the application of the ointment had gone, if it was as it should be, or if he was lingering. Now, keep in mind, at this point, she was alleging that she not only had a loss of long-term memory, but she couldn't remember things from day to day. Sometimes in the same day, she was having memory issues.
What Jared is doing is not okay. He just does what he wants, and he's very handsy with me. It's more like a breast exam, honestly.
According to Rachel, there were 3 doctors doing these things. And when the situation came to a head and Holt and Jared had that fight, police came. They did a rape kit, and they began to ask Rachel some questions. They had a lot of questions, and the exam was horrible for her. She claimed that
they are actually taking pictures of everything. Everything, looking at the marks and scratches. This is not okay. I would never let anyone take pictures of me, and they are just doing as they wish. This is another violation. It's humiliating.
Now, I'm assuming that's par for the course in cases like this. She was reluctant to answer the questions that anyone had. Through Holt, I learned that Rachel was said to have had some scratches and internal damage after that attack I told you about, where the doctor had his hand inside of her. These scratches would require the application of some sort of antibiotic, and that went on for a long period of time, and obviously it made her uncomfortable. This would allow for that remaining doctor, Dr. Jared, to touch Rachel. There's a tremendous amount of detail that I have related to this, and honestly, it's too graphic to detail for you, and including that second doctor they found. So I'll stay with Jared. They were just doing much more than touching. They were doing things to themselves around Rachel. How about we leave it at that? During the questioning from the detectives, Rachel claims that the sexual assault detective said that while all of this was inappropriate, Jared claimed that
he and I were actually in love, and anything that happened was consensual. We have feelings for each other. This guy is good. Can you believe he would say that to cover his own ass? This right here is exactly why I didn't want to go through questioning and this brutal exam.
This was sickening to hear. Who would think of this? Her game was to get me to this place where I'd never want to be near her again. And she would say things like,
I don't know how you can want to be with me now after all of this. You are no longer the last man to kiss me or touch me. I'm gross. I'm just whatever these doctors want me to be to them. All of them. You don't deserve this. You don't deserve to be with someone like me. Especially now, after all of this.
When I talk about things taking their toll on me, that's a pretty good example of one right there. I'll spare you the anger, but I wanted to kill each one of them. I was furious. I began to dig into things at a level that I don't really want to get into here, but I felt myself potentially becoming someone I didn't want to become. The cherry on the cake of all of this was that the arrest happened. And that weekend, I was in Boston. It's actually the time that she started to see Russ, as I shared with you. You know, she couldn't say to me, Harry, here's the truth. I was never sick. I don't have cancer. I'm not in the hospital, and all that stuff I've told you, it was all lies. She could never admit to it. So she used what I can only describe as enhanced techniques to push me away. You know what they say when they talk about enhanced techniques for interrogation with terrorists. This was like emotional waterboarding. I don't know how else to describe it. It was like my own Guantanamo. At one point during the spring of 2023, prior to that brain surgery that would take her memory, her daughter told me that she couldn't drop her phone again, or it would probably be ruined. She'd been throwing her phone down or dropping it when she was upset and frustrated. The screen was cracked. This caused me some panic. I thought, what happens if she loses her phone? This phone is our lifeline. It was made clear to me that she couldn't receive anything in her room because of the possibility of infection either. So what would happen if she broke her phone? This was an anxiety producer for me. As I speak these words to you, I'm thinking that if there is a God, if there is someone above watching over us, and that something or someone has questions when it's our time to meet our maker, and for Rachel to meet her maker, Rachel will probably believe there is a God. I think the two of them will probably have plenty to discuss. There'll be questions, and if she makes it through that meeting, she better hope that he allows for some grace. At any rate, Holt would come in and pray over her, and she would say, I don't have any religion. I don't even know if I believe in God at this point. Holt and I had not yet been introduced. I would just hear about what he was saying or doing. The only thing I knew was that he was this wonderful advocate for Rachel. Her daughter messaged me one day and said, guess what? And I was afraid to say what. We were kind of at that point where the surprise messages were never really good. She said, when I woke up, there was a new phone on my mom's tray table with a note from Holt.
Talk to the one you love. Don't stop doing that.
And her daughter said, I'm going to help her get it set up. But how sweet is that? Well, I couldn't believe it. I have a friend that I connected with after being out of touch for a long time, 30 years or more, I'd say. We were work friends and acquaintances back in the old days. I got word he moved to Vegas from New England, and that he also had developed a very rare type of cancer, an esophageal cancer. And this is a bad one. They had to take his esophagus out, and from there they stretch your stomach up to your throat. People rarely survive beyond a year, and his prognosis at this moment is grim. I believe that people are dropped in our lives for a reason. Not everyone, but certain people. And with this friend, I believe that. A mutual friend told me that he was living here, and he was also aware of the issues I was dealing with Rachel. And he said, look Bob up. He'll be sympathetic and empathetic to your situation. A good person for you to talk to. And so Bob and I reconnected. And it felt a little like fate to me. He was struggling with his own issues with this diagnosis. But he always made time for me. Made time to listen and offer opinion. We'd just talk. And at this point, he's about 3 years into his cancer battle. This cancer which most don't survive beyond a year post-diagnosis. And even before her scam was exposed, he would say, listen, our lives, our own lives, they are our reality show. And we get 365 episodes every year. That was a brilliant statement to me. He would say, we are the stars of our own reality show. We can define to some degree how things go, how the main player handles various situations and plot lines and so much more. There's a line from Shakespeare's As You Like It. It's also in a Rush song, All the World's a Stage and We're Merely Players. It's a monologue describing the 7 stages of a person's life. When Rachel's scam was exposed, I began to avoid this friend of mine. I felt those feelings that I had alluded to last season, the humiliation and the shame, a colossal amount of both. It was one thing to have wasted my own time, but to take his and rob him of time that he could have spent with his wife or his kids or other friends or on his projects, I felt horrible. But I finally came clean. I don't know, it took me 6 months. After he got over the initial shock, he said, remember what I told you about life being our own reality show. So, from here, what happens next on your show? Where's the plot go? This friendship, for me, is one of significance for a bunch of reasons. At this moment, he is in the fight of his life. He's also stopped taking treatment. And he's moved to a state that allows for medical assistance in dying. I saw him a month ago before he left. We had a pretty nice visit. And his wife walked me outside. And as I said goodbye, she said, hey, we're heading out of state in the next couple days. And I said, well, let me know if you guys need anything. I'm around the corner. She told me where they were going. And I said, that's a state where... And I didn't get to finish that line. And she said, yes. And I'm thinking to myself, 30 feet inside this door 3 minutes ago, I just said goodbye to him and shook his hand like, I'll see you soon. He didn't say goodbye to me in any meaningful way. He didn't tell me that it was very likely the last time I would see him. And I was without words as I stood there in the driveway. I had a lump in my throat. I could feel my eyes fill up. And as I sit here sharing this horrible, shitty story about what Rachel did with her fake cancer, and I'm working on my own story, sharing it with you, I pray that I get to see my friend again and that he'll get to hear this. He pushed me to do this. He pushed me to take charge of my own story. And for that reason, and many more, the great and legendary Bob Rivers will hold a place in my heart. You can Google his name if you want to learn more about Bob Rivers.
I'm comedian Negin Farsad, and I know that news and politics can be stressful, but on my podcast, Fake the Nation, we're here to make them calming, even, dare I say, fun. We have panelists like Samantha Bee, Bob the Drag Queen, Margaret Cho, David Cross, all following the news, politics, and culture so you don't have to. Distress the news with Fake the Nation on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Another pre-hospital story for you before I get back to the actual hospital issues. The week of December 20th, 2021 is when I was going to be heading back up to Atascadero. We had obviously just found out the day before that she had cancer and that she was pregnant. We actually had 3 issues we were facing. The anxiety dream she was having about me being with someone else, and then this cancer and the pregnancy. The pregnancy is what I want to focus on now for a few minutes. We spent a bunch of time discussing it that Monday, but it seemed that the way we were leaning was to terminate it. She went to the OB. They wouldn't give her the pills that she would need immediately. That would require a cooling off period of a couple days, I believe, the way she explained it to me. I'd spend a couple days thinking about it, and the next day I'd be heading up to Atascadero, and we'd be able to spend some time in person walking through it. That week went by, but we weren't really getting anywhere. It was strange to me. I was somehow paralyzed by this process of making a decision about what to do. She cautioned me not to romanticize the baby because it could cloud my ability to make a decision, the right decision, one from my brain versus one just from the heart, something that was more emotionally driven. I went home, spent the weekend not just thinking about the possibility of marriage, but possibility of a child and, of course, the cancer. I couldn't seem to get out of my own way in terms of figuring out what I wanted. It was strange for me. Monday came, and she headed back to the OB so they could write her a script for that chemical termination. Apparently, it's 2 pills, 2 yellow pills. She left the doctor's office, and she called me. She was upset. And I couldn't figure out why I couldn't make a decision. She said,
"What if I can't go through with it? What if I can't take the pills and terminate the pregnancy?"
And I said, "I guess we're having a baby." I was 55, I'd be 56 by the time the baby arrived, and I never had any kids of my own. We continued our back and forth, and that evening, she texted me.
"I'm sitting in the living room with the girls while they watch a movie. I'm pretending to pay attention, but I'm staring at my Yeti cup with the first big yellow pill I'm supposed to take. Harry, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can terminate our pregnancy and our baby's life."
A back and forth ensued, and I pressed her to keep the baby. And a decision was made. We would move forward with our pregnancy. I told her I'd be in Atascadero the next day. I flew to Santa Barbara, rented a car, got myself to Atascadero and that home to suites just around the corner from her home. We had a great week together, had a few overnights, and we spent our days leading up to Christmas each day around that hotel and doing different things. And then at one point she asked if I wanted to meet the girls, and I jumped at the chance to do that. We got together on that Thursday, the 23rd of December, when the girls were let out for break. 3 of the 4 girls came. Rachel's second daughter, she didn't make it. Rachel had asked that if it was okay if we sat across from each other.
"Is it okay with you to do that? I want to get you introduced to them slowly. I promised them after Bobby and my second suicide attempt that I wouldn't bring another man into their lives. Is it okay with you if we don't have any physical contact?"
You heard the daughter formerly known as Madison give her play-by-play on that lunch. It seemed a reasonable request to me. Lunch was fun. We had some laughs, and it was perfect. In my mind, the girls were lovely and sweet. Rachel brought them home, and they spent a few hours together. And then she came to the hotel after dinner and spent the night. We spent Friday together, and then I split. Came home to Vegas for Christmas and New Year's. That following week, Rachel was undecided about what to do. I wanted to get back up there after Christmas and see her, but she kept slow rolling me. She ended up taking the girls to Santa Cruz that week, and she claimed she was sick, morning sickness, and dealing with, issues apparently related to her cancer. We seemed to do a pretty solid job at avoiding that elephant in the room, though. She was treatment avoidant. Her oncologist indicated to her that there was a pill she could take for chemo that would allow her to keep the baby safe, and she could take that. I stayed in Atascadero for the duration minus the time she was allegedly in Mexico on vacation, and then stuck there with COVID. And we'll spend some more time talking about Mexico in greater detail, including a breakdown of Rachel going through the miscarriage. I'll fill in those blanks for you on another episode. I want to get back to the summer of 2023, which was a year and a half after this time. Over that summer, the last brain surgery, the one that took her memory, Rachel was pissed off. Pissed at the world. Her daughter would say, "My mom's angry. She's tearing pages out of her notebook. She keeps dropping her phone, pulling out her IVs, throwing things off the tray table, and creating mayhem here." While her real mayhem mission with me was in full force. Remember I shared with you a couple episodes back how she was behaving and communicating with me, basically saying she didn't want to discuss us or medical issues. At one point, she actually said to me,
"Harry, what's the point of communicating with each other if we have nothing to say? I'm not wanting to discuss this relationship with you that I can't remember."
Just another possible out for Rachel, I suppose. Every single day I had to remind her that she wasn't there because of Mark.
How do you know that? I don't share everything with you about what he does to me or what he has done to me. I hide things to protect you. I never tell you everything. I'm so scared that he knows where I am and that at any minute he will come barging through the door and beat me up again. You can't protect me. You say that, but you can't make that promise. Please don't promise me something that you can't do.
Now, do keep in mind that this is the time when Rachel thought it was about 2012 or 13 because of that memory loss. Follow me here. According to her, after that last brain surgery in May of 2023, we never had the first date in Santa Barbara. We never picked each other. We were never pregnant. And she doesn't know she has cancer. She thinks she's there because of Mark. The nights were the worst. Her daughter would say, "My mom just lays here crying." Not a regular cry either, that awful, ugly cry. And I'd do everything I could to tell her what I knew. I promised that Mark would never lay a finger on her again, or it would be the last thing he ever did. At one point, her daughter said, Holt got into her notes on the phone and wrote the following words.
"You're not here because of Mark. You're here because you are sick. Read your text messages from Harry before you do anything after you wake. The girl in your room is your daughter."
Her daughter said that he took a screenshot and made that her screen lock on her phone. Yet another amazing gesture. I'd message her every morning, and I'd say, "Good morning. I'm here, and I love you, and I'm not going anywhere, today or ever." She'd text me, and she would say, "Good morning." And I'd say, "Have you gone through yesterday's messages yet?" And she'd say,
"I'm doing that now. Can I get back to you? Give me a little bit."
Every day was like that for months when I would get to talk to her. Not much gets to me about this on an emotional level about her these days, but sharing this, I do feel pain and hurt and sadness again. What did I do in my life to deserve this? Is this karma? She'd get back to me eventually, and I'd say, "Do you have any questions for me? I know it's a lot. I just want you to know that I love you and I'm not going to give up on you." You're aware that she didn't do a ton of communicating with me at this point, but when she did, she would say,
"Do you really love me? Are we getting married? Do you still want to marry me? Am I really finally your girl? How did this happen?"
Those kinds of things. Sometimes several times a day, she'd ask me.
What are you going to do if I don't get my memory back? If I can't ever remember this relationship that you are talking to me about every day?
The answer? It was simple. I'll sneak back in the middle of the night and I'll steal your heart again, like I did 2 years ago. I told her that I'd court her every day for the rest of her life, if that's what it took. I had no quit in me when it came to her. I'd tell her our story. I'd share the engagement story with her, how I woke up that morning and shaved and put on a suit and waited for her to arrive. When she came through the door, I walked her to the couch and dropped to my knee. There's a part of me that wants to share my proposal with you. I don't think I can. But know this, I rehearsed that proposal 20 times that morning. I had the ring on my pinky. I kept it in my left hand, partially closed so she couldn't see it. And I took her hand in mine, and I asked for hers. I told her that I wished her dad was still alive so that I could ask him. I proposed, and I slid that ring on her finger, and she said yes. And that's all you get on that story. Back to her being pissed off for a minute. I continued to hear the words that I hated.
I don't know a thing about my life right now, and I don't want to continue to be reminded of this life with you or anyone that I can't remember. You have absolutely no idea what this is like for me. I don't really want to do this. You should move on with your life. You didn't sign up for it, and you don't deserve this. You don't want to be with a cripple that you have to care for the rest of your life. It's not fair to you.
This was heartbreaking. Sometimes she'd disappear for a couple days or more, and I'd remind her that I read a whole bunch of books, her favorite books, and that they were right there on her phone to listen to. And she wasn't interested. I told her about the meditations that I read for her. No interest. Told her about the 80 episodes of Harry Loves Rachel. No interest.
Thank you for doing all of those things, but I would rather sit in silence. I don't want to listen to anything at all.
Eventually, a new twist on the narrative would come into play.
I'm sorry, I don't think I'm going to live much longer, Harry. I don't know if you know how sick I really am. They can't even keep my heart rate above 50. I have kidney failure and paralysis. I've got 47 staples in my head. I have no hair, no nails, and I'm just gross. My eyes are so heavy. I just want to close them, and never wake up. I'm ready to die, Harry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you are a part of all of this. You don't deserve any of it. Go find someone that will love you like you deserve to be loved. I don't think I will live long enough to ever see you again. And because of this isolation, you can't even come here to visit me.
This push for me to leave was a full court press, and I wasn't moving. It began to take its toll, though. Holt had been telling me that she wasn't communicating at all with anyone still, and that wasn't good. It wasn't good for the staff, and it wasn't good for her.
I do know that the two of you communicate, and that's good. But her not communicating with the doctors or cooperating is not good for her as far as the hospital administration and our medical team is concerned. If they don't see that, the administration is going to push to put her into hospice, and they will make her a ward of the state because she doesn't have a power of attorney. I need your help. We need to get her to cooperate. Please. If they push for hospice and they are successful, she will be left there to rot.
And she was refusing exams, refusing treatment of any kind, and sometimes would wave people out of the room unless there was a medical emergency. She did code a couple times over the summer, and miraculously, they brought her back. Of course they did. He told me in no uncertain terms that he needed to show the chief of staff that she had a will to live. In late July, he told me that they put a request in at a local hospice facility. She was on that list, and I was crushed. During this time, it wasn't all negative, though. We were communicating quite a bit, on and off. I would share things about my life and periodically get the chance to talk to her about our life together. One day in the morning update, though, from Holt, It wouldn't be the normal medical update. It was critical information about Rachel.
I do have a request for you, if I may. I have been speaking to the chief of surgery today via email, and he has recommended a different path for Rachel. This is hard for me to hear or recommend for her. It was brought up once before. The neurosurgeon would like to talk end-of-life care and hospice options for Rachel, meaning to me they don't think she will recover and sustain a will to thrive. They have been looking for the will to thrive for a while now. I do not wish to see this path for her. I would like a full recovery. I'm sure you would as well. If you wouldn't mind spending time with her as you normally do today, and if she is able to communicate with you and she shows loving and hopeful thoughts, may I please show your messages to the chief and team to prove she is in fact thriving? They don't have conversations with her and she doesn't speak to anyone at all whatsoever. Maybe a head shake, yes or no, maybe a hand squeeze for months and months. That's all I've gotten. If they knew the things she says to you and that her mind is alive and well, this could be a game changer. If she is not that today, I will not show the messages. I will not either way, without your permission. I am only looking for today's conversations, something that is fresh and new and shows her mind is alive and well now, even after the shocks. Nothing old will matter to the chief of the neurology department. He needs something after all of this. Please just choose a section of conversations today and screenshot those for me. That way you don't have to filter the whole day. I will not go through private messages of yours. You can screenshot and send me what you have through here or through her messages when I'm back. I'll bring the neurosurgeon with me this evening. By the way, her heart rate is 69. That's the highest in days. I'll reach out later when I come back with him.
It wasn't easy, but finally by the end of the day, I got somewhere. And she was responding to me. We talked about life. We talked about love.
The way you talk to me about how you love me and this life you want is incredible. It's all I have ever wanted in my life. To be loved like this and loved for who I am. I don't understand how life is so cruel. If there really is a God, why would he give you to me and then allow this to happen?
And I had no answer other than I was there on that day like I had been every other day. And I'd be there the next and the next. I wasn't budging. I took a bunch of screenshots of our exchanges that day, and I dropped them into the note. I wanted Holt and the other doctor to have what they needed the minute they walked in the door. And at around 9 o'clock, I got a message from Rachel's phone in the normal way.
The neurosurgeon is with me now. I see your screenshots. These are perfect examples of her mind being active and alert. It doesn't give a will to thrive so much, but it's activity that no one knew she had. No one thought she could understand or form a thought. She doesn't respond or communicate in any of the ways with these doctors. Seeing her messages is everything to save her. This is incredible. He does feel if she isn't improving physically, that moving her to a hospice facility will be her best option, basically removing her from most of the machines and letting her body run its course. End-of-life care, they call it. At that point, she is given all the pain medicine she needs to be pain-free until she passes. I am 1,000% against this. I feel like I am not able to quit, and I can't just give up on her. I'll fight for her every day. I'll fight for her because she can't fight for herself. Regardless of her will to live, she's in there.
Her daughter sent me a message during the visit and said, "There are 2 doctors here, Holt and someone I've never seen before." And she asked why they were there. I tried to reassure her that they were just doing an exam. She said she heard the other doc, the neuro doc, say something about hospice. She said, "Why would they say that about my mom?" And I diverted. That wasn't good enough. She wanted to see what else I had. Well, Rachel did. And then at one point, I got a message back from the daughter, and she said, "My mom has cancer?" Oh, yeah, Rachel claimed they weren't going to share with her daughter or anyone else that she had cancer. They kept it from her. I was sucked all in on this scam. I believed it 1,000%. I said, "Who said that? Which doctor?" And she said it was the neuro guy. I said, "Do me a favor and tell Holt to grab her phone." And I got into the note and I said, "Listen, she just overheard that doctor say that Rachel has cancer. What do I say to that? How do I answer a 14-year-old girl that's starting to not believe me? My credibility's at stake here. I need her trust. But Rachel's adamant that she can't know."
Just say he is out of the loop. She doesn't need that on her mind. Rachel's cancer is the least of our worries at this time, and I'll speak with her daughter before I leave.
I said, "Look through those texts. We communicate like this every single day. She doesn't deserve to be sent to hospice. She has her mind. She's just angry and frustrated and embarrassed by her condition."
Looking at your messages, there is a fun, loving, sweet woman in there that is in love and has a future. I will fight that option for hospice care. Hang in there and take care of you. Please talk to someone.
And I told him that I would, but I had no intention at that point of doing anything like that. This thing with Holt telling me to take care of me, it's not the first time. Make sure you're speaking to someone. Telling me that he understood the toll this was likely taking on me. She used that with me all the time. At this point, on this particular day, I was exhausted. My mind was toast. And like I like to say, that day was over for me. Tomorrow would be another day. I grabbed a cigar and 2 fingers of whiskey and my 80-pound pit bull and headed to the backyard for a smoke and a drink. A rarity for me. I may have a half a dozen drinks a year, maybe. My dog, Max, he became the very definition of an emotional support animal. He's probably one of the reasons that when things got really dark, he was one of the reasons I'm still here. And is. That's the truth. I think he felt my sadness. He did what they do instinctively. As I record this, I had a couple of issues in January, a couple of medical scares with him. He got very sick. And I kept thinking to myself while this was happening, as I was looking at him suffering, you better not go. I need you, and I know you need me. And then there was a night where I'd come back from the vet with him, and he basically collapsed on the floor. And I had to call them back after I told them I wasn't going to leave him in their office overnight. And I said, I got to bring him back. And I didn't want to bring him back because I had a dog once that got sick like this. And I dropped him off to spend the night at the vet. And I never saw him again. And I wasn't doing that again. If he was going to go, he was going to go here, and he was going to go in my arms. I never had any kids. And that boy, he's a different breed. Just the sweetest boy. I went back and got him the next day. He's fine. He's alive and well. There are moments when I sit alone staring at nothing and it all comes crashing down on me, all of this. Now, there continues to be more time and space between those events happening these days, I can tell you that. What does it take to take someone that you allegedly love down the road she took me down, these horrors? Take the time to talk about being sent to hospice and being left to rot and these assaults, any of these things. She didn't even pretend to be herself. She hid behind this made-up doctor and her 14-year-old daughter. So much of this just figments of her own imagination. I keep asking myself the question that I'll never have the answer to. Why? What sort of fucked up person do you have to be to lead someone down that road? This person that did nothing but give you his heart. How sick or empty inside do you have to be? And each time I go digging into my phone or notes for stories to share with you, I uncover lies and more lies beneath those lies. All Rachel cared about is how my love made her feel. I'm convinced of that. That's all she cares about, is how things make her feel versus how those of us that are impacted by her lies are left feeling. Rachel, who insisted on the truth, claimed that lies would break us. She would preach transparency and open communication as if they were her gospel. She provided neither. I sometimes imagine that Rachel must have her own big book, a massive binder, color-coded, tabs, sections for each person in her life. A section for Mark, her husband of 22 years, maybe a section for her workplace scams, one for each of her daughters. Oh, she had one for me, obviously, too. But I know where my section is now. It's buried in the back. In the part labeled Dead to Me, it sits right next to her sister Sherry's section. Right there near Bobby and Stephanie and Stacy and Todd, Brad and Mike Cherry and Laura. Next to the section for our baby that never existed. Another heartbreak she manufactured for reasons I still can't comprehend. This wasn't impulsive, it was calculated, every bit of it. It wasn't just a love scam, it got out of hand, it was methodical. Required storyboards and character development and arcs and differing plot lines. It was a full-time job to manage this, it had to be. I want to share a term with you, one that's not used in a clinical setting to describe the sociopath or the narcissist. But I think it's one that applies here. It's an apt description of what she is. And I know the term because I watch a lot of true crime TV. So the first part of it is a part that I'm familiar with. Rachel is a process-focused liar, a process-focused narcissist, and a process-focused sociopath. Her stories are so good. They have so much detail. They don't miss a beat. She is process-focused. Can you imagine for a minute if she actually told her version of this story? If we got to interview her, the truth behind why and how she crafted it, how much time it took her outside of the normal communication she and I had every day, which was so much time. Remember, I'm just one part of this fiction. There are lots of these tales, lots of stories in the binder that Rachel authored. Anyway, Holt came in, messaged me the next day, said the department head meeting was successful. He was going to meet with that group. And I heard from him a day or two later.
Harry, today is my day off, but I wanted to come in and sit with Rachel and her daughter. I wanted to just be here for her. I do have some good news for you. What you did the other night, that saved her. Those screenshots and you sharing that with us and what you do for her each day, it helps more than you know. And without being anywhere near this hospital, you saved her life. You saved her from hospice.
And with that, I had a good cry. The ugly kind. We would live to fight another day. On the next episode of The Messenger, the Rachel Cancer Scam, the first of the interviews with Rachel's co-workers at the airport, the San Luis Obispo County Airport. Next time on the Rachel Cancer Scam.